Hi everyone! Welcome back to First Step English Stories. I'm really glad you are here today. This video is made for one simple purpose: to help you speak English clearly, calmly, and confidently. We will use the shadowing technique. This method is simple but very powerful. First, listen carefully. Then, repeat after me. Copy my pronunciation, rhythm, and speed. Don't rush. Don't worry about mistakes. Just follow my voice. Take a deep breath. Relax your shoulders, and let's begin. My name is Emma. I am 26 years old. I live in the United States, in a quiet city where people are always busy but rarely slow down. Every morning, my alarm rings at 6:30. I open my eyes. I stare at the ceiling, and for a moment, I feel tired. Not in my body, but in my heart. I make coffee. I stand near the window. Cars pass by. People hurry to work, and every morning I ask myself the same question: is this really the life I want? I work in an office. The building is modern. The desk is clean. The computer is fast. But my days feel heavy. Emails, meetings, deadlines. I do my job well. My boss is satisfied. My coworkers are kind. Still, something feels missing. Sometimes, during lunch break, I sit alone. I watch other people talk and laugh, and I think, when did life become so quiet inside me? One evening, I stayed late at the office. Everyone had already gone home. The lights were soft. The room was silent. I looked at my screen, but I couldn't focus. So I closed my laptop. I leaned back in my chair and took a deep breath. That was the first time I allowed myself to admit the truth. I was not happy, and I was afraid to change. That night, at home, I didn't turn on the TV. I didn't check social media. I sat on my bed and wrote in a notebook. I wrote, "What do I really want?" The page stayed empty for a long time. Then, slowly, words appeared. I want confidence. I want growth. I want to feel proud of myself. That was the night everything quietly began to change. I still remember that night very clearly. The room was quiet, the light was soft, and my thoughts were loud. I closed my eyes and asked myself a simple question: what am I afraid of? At first, I didn't know the answer. Then, slowly, honestly, I realized the truth. I was afraid of failing. I was afraid of starting again. I was afraid of people judging me. But most of all, I was afraid of leaving my comfort zone. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. I didn't rush. I didn't check my phone. I made tea. I sat by the window. And for the first time in a long time, I felt calm. That morning, I made a small decision. I decided to work on myself, step by step, quietly, without telling anyone. After work, instead of going straight home, I stayed in the office library. I opened my laptop. I searched for courses, books, skills. I wanted to grow, not for promotion, not for money, but for confidence. Some days were easy, other days were very hard, There were evenings when my head felt heavy and my eyes hurt. Sometimes I wanted to quit, but every time I felt tired, I remembered my notebook. I remembered the empty page and the words I wrote that night. I want to feel proud of myself. Weeks passed. Something inside me slowly changed. I started speaking more in meetings. My voice was still soft, but it was clear. People listened. That surprised me. One afternoon, my manager asked me to stay after work. I felt nervous. I sat across from him. He looked serious. Then he smiled. "Emma," he said, "I've noticed your progress." My heart beat faster. "There's a new internal project," he continued. "It's challenging. It requires responsibility and confidence." He paused. "I think you're ready." That night, I walked home slowly. The city lights were bright. The streets were noisy. But inside me, everything felt quiet. I knew this was a test, not from my company, from life. At home, I stood in front of the mirror. I looked at myself, not at my clothes, not at my hair, at my eyes, and I said softly, "You can do this." The project was not easy. There were deadlines, pressure, moments of doubt. Some nights I worked until midnight, but I didn't feel empty anymore. I felt alive. One evening, while reviewing documents in a quiet cafe, someone spoke to me. "Long day?" I looked up. It was a man about my age. He had a calm voice and kind eyes. "Yes," I answered, "but a meaningful one." He smiled. That was the beginning of another unexpected chapter, but I didn't know that yet. I finished my coffee, packed my bag, and walked home. The air was cool. The night was peaceful. And for the first time, I didn't feel afraid of tomorrow. Breathe in, breathe out. Repeat the sentences again. Slowly, clearly. The next few days felt different, not because life became easier, but because I became stronger inside. I woke up with more focus. I walked with more confidence. I spoke with more clarity. Small changes, quiet changes, but powerful ones. At work, the project moved forward. There were moments when I didn't know the answer, and that was okay. Instead of staying silent, I asked questions. Instead of feeling ashamed, I felt curious, and that changed everything. One afternoon, during a team discussion, I shared an idea. My voice was calm. My hands were steady. The room went silent. Then someone nodded. Another person agreed. My idea mattered. I felt something warm inside my chest. Pride. That evening, I wrote again in my notebook. This time, the page was not empty. I wrote, "I am learning to trust myself." Life outside work began to shift too. I stopped rushing. I stopped apologizing for existing. I started listening to my body, to my thoughts, to my feelings. I went for evening walks. I cooked simple meals. I slept better. Peace slowly entered my life. A few weeks later, I met that man from the cafe again. This time, he smiled first. "Emma, right?" he asked. I nodded. "Yes, and you're Daniel." He laughed softly. We talked, not about big things, not about success, about books, music, silence. He listened carefully. He didn't interrupt. That felt rare. Days passed. Conversations became longer. Coffee turned into walks. Walks turned into quiet evenings. There was no rush, no pressure, just presence. One night, as we sat on a bench under soft streetlights, he asked, "Do you ever feel like you're becoming someone new?" I smiled. "Yes," I said, "and for the first time, I like who I'm becoming." At work, the project reached its final stage. I was nervous, but not afraid. I prepared carefully. I trusted my process. On presentation day, I stood tall. I spoke clearly. I finished calmly. When it was over, I didn't rush. I breathed. I knew I did my best. Later that day, my manager called me in. He smiled. "You've grown a lot, Emma." Those words stayed with me. That night, I walked home slowly. The city was loud, but my mind was quiet. I realized something important. Fear doesn't disappear, but courage grows. At home, I stood by the window. I looked at the lights, the movement, the life, and I whispered